Hey there, and welcome to day 4 of the 5-day painting challenge. We have a lot to cover today, and I want to make sure we hit all of the major points, talking about the last, closing up that habit loop, talking about rewards and about assessment and reflection, and then talking about what we're going to be doing tomorrow for our finale, our celebration of the challenge. Not finished yet? That's okay. It's okay if you haven't even gotten started yet. The challenge prompts are going to be available for those who've registered all the way until the 16th. Catching up means starting day 1, your day 1, going through 5 days, because it's not going to do you any good if you try to do 5 days worth of work in one day. That won't create the painting habit. That'll just make you a little cray-cray, as we say here in the South. So make sure you give yourself time and space to adequately really form that painting habit. And reminder that we're going to be opening up Composition, Color, and Light live tomorrow, but we're also, during tomorrow's celebration, the same time, same place, tomorrow's celebration, going to be announcing the scholarship recipient for this round of Composition, Color, and Light. So if you would like to be considered for that, then what you need to do is make sure you go to the replay page. Towards the top, there is a survey for your challenge experience. Fill that out, and that's all you have to do. You have to be registered for the challenge, and you have to have participated so far, even if you're just starting out. But go ahead and click over to the replay page once we hop off. Don't go do it now. And we can consider you for the scholarship for Composition, Color, and Light. Let's dive in to talk about what it means to reward yourself and why that's so important. Remember, we're trying to train ourselves just like you would if you were trying to train a puppy or a small child about a correct habit or behavior. And so one of the things that really cements that correct behavior when you're establishing a new routine are rewards, small rewards, because animals respond better to positive reinforcement than they do to negative reinforcement. That's why I talked a good bit all 3 days so far about listening to and being very conscious of the chatter that's in your head. Make sure that you're not berating yourself about your performance, because that will degrade your performance. You won't do as well. Instead, even when you've made a bad painting, remember that's not a bad thing. Even when you've made a painting that you think is bad, I want you to look for the success in that painting. Find the things in that painting that are things that you can carry over to the next one. Even if, and I saw a bunch of people listing this one yesterday, even if that is as simple as realizing I need to mix more paint before I get started. I'm not mixing enough paint, so I need to mix more paint in order to be able to paint and flow. Watch the way that you say it as well. Instead of saying, I didn't mix enough paint, you want to say, I learned I need to mix more paint tomorrow. Because our mind processes those two statements in very different ways. The first one is, you screwed up. What were you doing? The second one is, I can improve by doing this. So listen to the language that you use with yourself. That in itself is a little bitty reward. And it's something that can happen on each day of the challenge. Rewards keep you moving forward. Rewards give you a thing that you're working towards. Rewards are something that reinforce that positive behavior. And remember, it's even more effective if the reward is in alignment with the new habit that you're trying to create. So the reward that I ordered for myself, I actually got 2 different rewards. And I think some of y'all are doing a similar thing for yourself. So I ordered paint for myself and some new panels. And my paint came in, the first part came in last night, and the second part came in just this morning, just a few minutes ago. So I ordered paint. Let me see if y'all can see that. Y'all see that? I ordered 4 new tubes of paint from Vasari. Vasari Oils, Classical Artist Oils. They're out of New York. It's really good paint. Love the quality of their paint. And I had been eyeing some of their colors for a while. So I ordered it for myself as a Cersei, as a small surprise or a small gift for the challenge. Now, am I going to open these up yet? No. So don't give yourself the reward too soon. Give yourself little rewards by positively reinforcing that correct pattern that you're trying to create. But if your reward is a new tube of paint, don't open it until tomorrow, because you'll defeat the purpose and have to find another reward to keep yourself going. So watch how you use the rewards. This little box of paint is going to sit over there on my paint stand so that I don't open it up, because I'm sorely tempted because it looks so yummy. But I'm going to wait. And then I'm going to have a whole lot of fun on Saturday morning painting with this paint. So I've ordered myself a whole bunch of new colors that I haven't worked with before in order to test them out and see what they will do. So that is totally in alignment with the behavior that I'm trying to reinforce. So it's got to be in alignment. Alignment's actually one of my favorite words. I think it's at the heart of everything that I teach, both in composition, color, and light, and in the painter's path. Get yourself in alignment with what you're trying to achieve, and the whole world becomes so much more easy. So pick a reward that's going to be in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish, and it will help in reinforcing that correct behavior. Think about making sure that you're not rewarding yourself with the big reward too soon. Lots of us do that. It's what happens frequently to those people, myself included, who try to set New Year's resolutions. One of the things that goes wrong is you have 3 good days and then you go, I'm just going to go ahead and use that now. I'm going to reward myself now. I'm going to have that chocolate bar now. I've dieted really well these past 3 days. I need a little goodie. That's how you fall off the edge. So don't do that. Save your big reward until at least tomorrow. The only reason I can't paint with them until Saturday is because tomorrow I'm also doing granddaughter, and painting with her around perhaps is not going to be a real productive session. So I'm going to wait until Saturday morning to work on those new paints. So align the reward with the outcome. Save it until you've achieved at least the beginning of that routine. It's beginning to form a habit. Next thing I want you to think about doing, I'm going to give you 5 steps to really make the habit cement. There's some things that tend to go wrong, things that people do that make it more difficult to make the habit stick. And it's where I see the new routine coming apart, both in myself and in others. So let's think about some of the things that can go wrong and how you can make sure others are going to go. So the first thing is to remember that you can't change everything all at once. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Pick one single thing and make that an established habit before you pick the next habit. Remember, I talked yesterday about the reason that I haven't demoed painting for y'all during the challenge, because that's not the focus of the challenge. The challenge is about simply painting. It's about making painting a daily habit. And if I started to demo my painting process, it would derail everybody because they'd get all caught up in now, how can I do it? Neri did it. I promised, I'm going to do it too, that I would demo, but it's here towards the end of the challenge. So I'll be demoing this afternoon, late this afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here at the same link if you're here on Zoom. And I'll be broadcasting it into the Facebook group as well. So I will be demoing, and I'll show you all the steps in the painter's framework that I use and I teach in composition, color, and light, because it does make it a whole lot easier to paint when you've got a process. But I don't want you to start thinking about process until you've got the painting habit in there first. So make sure that you've registered for the challenge so you can watch that demo later on today, or make sure you're in the Facebook group so you can see it. So I will show y'all how to do that, but you don't want to try to start a second habit at the same time as the first. Makes it too complex. One of my favorite sayings is keep it stupidly simple. So break it down to the most simple little bitty bit. That way you can focus on that one single thing at a time. I think this is Pat who's asking, the demo is when? It's at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here on Zoom and in the Facebook group. If you're not free to come then, because I know a lot of people aren't, and I'll tell you why I picked that time in particular. It's recorded and it's going to be on the replay page. So don't worry about that. You'll be able to watch it later. The reason I picked 5 is it's a time that is early enough, although it's still a really stinky time for all of our friends over in Europe. 6 and 7 gets to be really late their time. So 5 is a little bit earlier and it's a little bit more doable. So we're trying to find a time that's right in between that works for most of the people in the community, because the artwork living community spans the whole globe. So we're not going to find a single time that works for everyone, but it's one that works for most people. So don't worry if you can't come exactly at that time. Yeah, it's 5 p.m. today. It'll be recorded and you can watch it on the replay page. So remember, don't try to change everything at once. Pick one habit, one new habit. Concentrate on that. And once it begins to become ingrained, then you can layer the next habit in on top of that. Remember, I talked yesterday about having an anchoring habit, that it really helps when you're trying to create a new habit if you can link it to something you're already doing. And I call that an anchor habit. Some others call that a keystone habit. It's something you're already doing that's already habitual. And if you can tie those two things together, it'll make it so much easier to really make it happen. So hopefully after you've got the painting habit really down pat, then you can use it as the anchor habit for developing a more intentional process while you're painting. So you'll have the daily painting part down, and then you can start focusing on process so you can make paintings that you really love without worrying about failure quite as much. So you can paint a little bit more fearlessly and in flow. The next thing that I think can get in the way is when the habit that you're trying to start is too enormous because it becomes overwhelming. So you want to pick a habit that break down that big habit. You see how closely related this is to number 1. Break the big habit down into smaller habits so that you can address them one at a time and begin to link them together and build them one on another. So think about if you wanted to, let's see, what's a good example? If you wanted to start walking every day, you wanted to exercise every day, the very first time you go out to walk, if you haven't been doing it that much, trying to walk 3 miles the very first time is probably not a really good idea. What's going to happen if you try to do that? You're going to wear yourself out. You're going to be really sore the next day, and you're far less likely to want to get out of bed and go do the walk. So instead, break it down smaller and gradually increase. So keep the habit from being so big, break it down into smaller ones. The third problem that I see is that people get all caught up on the outcome rather than the process. So I want you to focus on the process. That's why I keep saying it's not important whether they're good paintings or not. It's just important that you paint. And in fact, you're going to do a whole lot better if you free yourself up and allow yourself to make some really bad paintings. The worst thing that's going to happen, you may need to scrape something down. Chances are it's probably not as bad as you think it is. I have a 24-hour rule inside the course, inside composition, color, and light. And I tell people to leave it alone for at least 24 hours before you scrape it down, because 99.99% of the time it's fine. It's just that you're too close to see it. You're stuck in the messy middle and you can't observe it objectively. So give yourself space and don't expect it to be practically perfect right away. Focus on the process instead, and it gives you the freedom to make some things that are not the tip top, but that you might really learn from along the way. So focus on the behavior, focus on the process, not on the product. Process is more important than product. It's way more important than product. Will happen all on its own if you focus on the process. So here's the next one that I think is super important. And it goes back to what we talked about actually on the first and second day. The idea that if you make it easy to get started, you're far more likely to actually follow through. So make it easy to get started. Create an environment, create a space, create a studio mindset that makes it easy for you to get down to painting. Remember, I said studio is not so much a place as a state of mind. And in order to do that, you want to go through some of those triggers that we talked about: sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. Remember, you had all of the sensory parts. And that'll help you get into the studio state of mind. When you do that, you're a whole lot more likely to paint in flow. So make it easy to get started. Make sure you're really using those cues and triggers to alter your mindset and get you into the studio state of mind. And last but not least, I think I've talked about this every single day. Last but not least, remember that there's a lot of beauty in taking baby steps. That was the biggest thing that I got out of doing my first daily painting project. I realized that doing an hour and a half a day added up way more than I realized. So doing little bits every day, making small changes in your behavior every day adds up tremendously over time. As human beings, we have a tendency to vastly underestimate how much we can accomplish over a long period of time, and vastly overestimate how much we can accomplish in a short period of time. So what that means is that we think we can do a whole lot in a really small period of time, and we have no clue how much we can get done in a long period. If you begin to take these small steps, I can guarantee you they'll add up over time, and you'll find yourself painting more and more. And on top of that, your paintings will get better and better. And it's not something you have to consciously think about. It will just be. People ask all the time, how do I get a style? We haven't really talked about style that much, but it's a question that comes up in every single workshop I've ever taught, every single course and class I've ever taught, whether the student is 18 or the student is 80. How do I get a style? Because we all want to have our own style. You already have it. You just need to express it. Style happens by showing up every day. Style happens by time with the knife or the brush in hand. You can't read a book to acquire style. Doesn't happen by thinking about it. Style doesn't happen by following a roadmap or a set of steps or guidelines. Style just happens by painting. Think about what happens as you're learning to write by hand. Your style develops over time, and it's awkward at first, but it becomes so much more personal and you over time. And after a while, you don't have to think about what you're doing. The same thing will happen with your painting, but it will only happen if you focus on process rather than product. Don't think about perfect paintings. They must all be good paintings. They all have to be in this consistent style. They will be. The more you paint, the more your style will develop. It will happen quite naturally over time. So if it's something that you're worried about and is hanging you up right now, let it go. Don't worry about it. Just paint. Most of our problems as artists, as creatives, can be solved by just making. So just go paint, just go make. If you don't do it, remember I've talked about this earlier, that's going to get bottled up and it'll become toxic. So don't worry about style, just paint. Show up a little bit every day and style will happen quite naturally, just as that little bit every day will help you move way down the road towards whatever your big goal is for your painting. Whether you're painting for pleasure, impact, or profit, doesn't really matter which one. All of those things are achievable over time by taking little bitty steps consistently over time. Want to remind everybody that I'm going to be showing a 5 p.m. demo of the process that I use to paint, 5 p.m. So it'll be at the same Zoom link. Hope to see y'all there. Happy painting, everybody. Paint on, and remember, get that 20 or 30-minute painting done and post it into the group so that we can all see it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.